Right now on News 13, surveying the damage. People in the Carolinas woke up this morning ready to rebuild after some parts were battered yesterday by Hurricane Ian. Tonight we have a look at some of the damage in daylight plus reaction as our extensive coverage continues.
Coverage you can count on at 11 starts now.
And we open with a live look at what has become a symbol of Hurricane Ian in Myrtle Beach. This shrimp boat washed ashore yesterday amid the storm. Its crew was rescued earlier that day by the Coast Guard. Tonight, it's still buried in roughly 6 feet of sand. Good evening to you, and thanks for joining us for News 13 at 11. We'll have more about the boat in a moment, but we begin tonight with Hurricane Ian's impact in South Carolina. Ian made landfall yesterday afternoon near Georgetown as a Category 1 hurricane, bringing heavy rain and strong winds. Now, while the storm caused extensive damage along some parts of the coast, state officials said today there were no storm-related deaths in the state. Governor Henry McMaster adds no hospitals were damaged and water systems across the state are okay.
Most of the electricity has been restored, and I need to add in record pace. I don't think we've seen such organization and speedy service as we saw there. Insurance adjusters are here. The requirement for permits have been lifted so those from out of state can come help and speak to all of our people.
The state's Emergency Management Operations Center remained open overnight. Ian mostly cleared South Carolina by the late evening, but officials were responding to requests from local agencies. Taking a look at the damage now, we'll start on the southern end of our area before making the trek up north. The center of the storm hit near Georgetown, as we said, and this is what Front Street looked like yesterday as surge waters flooded the street and neighboring businesses. Well, this afternoon, Front Street and the Harbor Walk were both clear. Moving now to Pawleys Island, which took quite the beating yesterday, and here you see it enough to destroy part of the pier. This here is drone footage of the pier from this morning sent to us by a viewer. The end of it was washed out to sea as surge waters crept to the mainland side of the causeway. Homes on the island flooded, and even some inland did as well.
We're just very lucky that it came in and came out fairly quickly compared to what it did to Florida.
And the island was blocked off again today, residents and working contractors only. Governor McMaster surveyed the damage to the Pawleys Island Pier for himself this afternoon. He visited the site with SCDOT officials. McMaster also toured the Grand Strand via helicopter following that stop in Georgetown County. To Myrtle's Inlet now, and you can see in this video here the whitecaps as the wind and rain pounded the inlet. Two guys we caught up with today decided to hunker down at home but noticed floating debris all around, even boats capsizing in the water. One of those boats made its way onto their yard.
We were sitting here yesterday, looked out, we saw boats capsizing out there. We had at one point a big 20-foot center console float into the middle of my yard. Unofficial rescue teams out here.
Crazy stuff, and those two gentlemen found the boat's owner on Facebook. They say neighbors came together to help get the boat back in water. And one of the hardest hit parts of Horry County was Garden City, and it's one of the low-lying areas that's prone to flooding, and yesterday was no exception. This here is video of a public beach access with water covering the entire beach as a result of the storm surge. Sand covered Waccamaw Drive, both north and south, and they were closed today as crews worked with heavy machinery to clear debris. Town officials told us today the pier was assessed after the storm and wasn't found to have any structural issues. However, a construction trestle was damaged. Plus, sand now covers much of the equipment. And of course, the pier under construction right now will replace the one destroyed by Hurricane Matthew back in 2016. And we'll stay in Garden City, where last night 3 homes were damaged after this fire here, once the worst of the storm had passed. Officials say the fires were on South Waccamaw Drive. They had trouble getting to those fires because of road conditions, and more issues fighting the flames because of flooding and wind gusts. No word yet if there were any injuries, nor what caused the fires, and if the storm was a factor. Well, tonight, safety concerns after damage from Hurricane Ian, and the reason Ocean Lakes Campground will not allow camping guests until further notice. Ocean Lakes said it's addressing water, power, and electrical issues. Halloween weekend's festivities for this weekend have also been canceled. Moving now to Myrtle Beach, the powerful waves washed out sand dunes, and officials say flooding was limited, though, because of pre-storm drainage efforts, which involved clearing ditches as well as lowering ponds. City crews spent today assessing the damage and expect to have damage reports and estimates by the start of the week. And This here is video of Myrtle Beach fire crews using a ladder truck to rescue some stranded people off the second floor of an Ocean Boulevard motel from floodwaters.
I think we fared very well. The storm surge was more than we expected. We probably got a little more storm than we expected. The dunes did what they were supposed to do, so we'll get out and put things back to right. Our recreation centers opened as usual today. Chapin Library opened as usual. We're assessing the damage in the parks. The 2 off-leash bark parks are open again today, so we're back to business pretty much as normal.
Well, now to the elephant in the room. You saw it behind Mark Crua there, the city spokesperson, the shrimp boat that washed ashore yesterday near 22nd Avenue South in Myrtle Beach. Well, it turned into a spectacle. Those folks had a front row seat. The boat is not a stranger to fame. It's been used in a number of reality shows as well as a Darius Rucker music video. The Shana Michelle used to be known as the Winds of Fortune, but fortune left her stranded. We're told the vessel was on its way to Holden Beach from Georgetown yesterday. The boat lost power as Ian closed in, and the crew called the Coast Guard for a rescue. Well, waves pushed the boat 2 miles to shore with no one aboard. It's still stuck in roughly 6 feet of sand.
We've got to figure out how to move it, or they do, and it may take a couple of days, a couple of weeks to do that. It depends. We're not going to have as high a tide in the near future as put it here.
Crew members were there today unloading fuel to lighten the boats. Police have the area blocked off. But new at 11, Myrtle Beach police arrested this man here. He's Isaac Shaw yesterday for allegedly climbing aboard the Shana Michelle while it was tossing in the surf. Shaw's charged with disorderly conduct. And in North Myrtle Beach, the Cherry Grove Pier, one of 4 in our area, taking on heavy damage. Here's video from this morning. There you see a big chunk of it just gone, and right there to the right is a big piece that washed on shore. And new at 11, crews were at the Florence Center today for a cleanup and power restoration after the PD also experienced Ian's heavy rain and winds. News 13's Kiana Benson reports.
For the South Carolina Duke Energy Progress side, it's about 11,000 outages, and then yesterday one of the higher numbers was somewhere around the 20,000.
Customers who experienced a power outage during the storm were instructed to reach out using the text feature or by calling in with any information to help. Duke Energy and Infinity Communications Group have been available and on-site at the Florence Center to assist residents with power outages in the surrounding areas.
Staging crews here at the Florence Center. These are crews that are coming from off systems, so from elsewhere in the Duke Energy service territory to help with storm. Our local crews are working out of their normal operations.
Paul says they have airboats, high water vehicles, and all other tools necessary that crews are using to travel to those sites and remove any obstacles in their way.
Recover the network is the primary response that we're here for. In this case, we're using portable generators that have been brought in from around the country to this location in Florence to dispatch these portable generators out to cell sites to get the network back up. In this case, we're responding for T-Mobile Communications, and we put the cell site to get their communications back at that site so that the people that are...
Infinity Communications Group Robert Charles says those power outages caused the telephone communications network to lose power, and for many people, leaving them to find alternative ways to report those outages and home damage.
As soon as the storm is clear, we start responding. So obviously yesterday, we were in place, we were here. We had to wait for the winds to get to a point that it's safe to tow a generator, and as soon as we had that, we started responding.
And that was News 13's Kiana Benson reporting. At last check, there are about 1,000 people without power in Horry County, a little over 100 still without power in Florence County, and in Georgetown County, where the storm hit, about 1,100 people are still without power. Check on friends and loved ones to make sure they're okay. To North Carolina now, where officials confirm 4 storm-related deaths. This is video of Ian pummeling Charlotte. Today, crews are working to get roads cleared and power restored. Governor Roy Cooper cautions people to be safe while cleaning up. And Ian's death toll in Florida is at least 27 tonight, most of them drowned. This here is drone footage from today of the devastation in Fort Myers. So far, more than 1,000 people have been rescued from flooded areas along Florida's southwestern coast since Ian made landfall there Wednesday as one of the strongest storms to hit the U.S. And we definitely got a lot of that rain here, Hannah. So we join you now in your Storm Tracker 13 Weather Center to take a look at some of those rainfall totals for the month.
Yeah, so not surprisingly, we did have the highest totals right along the immediate coast and mainly on the South Strand as well, much closer to where the center of the storm came ashore. So we were looking down on the South Strand, Georgetown to Garden City, anywhere from 5.5 to nearly 7 inches of rain was observed there throughout the North Strand and also heading inland just a little bit. On average, we're looking about 3 to 4 inches. We're going to head to the PD now, where rain was on the lighter side. It just didn't last as long, but still had some very gusty winds and some pretty noticeable totals there. Anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5 inches of rain were observed, but luckily flooding wasn't as much of a concern throughout the PD, as September was abnormally dry, and even with all these totals, we still ended up behind our monthly normals.